What is up, my friends? Aloha and welcome to another episode on Own the Outcome. And listen, today is going to be a solo episode. I told you in the intro episode that I'm going to do a few solo episodes on just experiences and challenges, failures, all sorts of shit that I've experienced throughout my life. And that, guess what? I've owned the outcome of and got through. And so today is going to be at the time that I got fired, man. Listen, I've been fired actually a number of times throughout my life. I'm very unemployable. That's just the reality. But here's what happened, okay? I had always wanted to speak. I always wanted to speak. I mean, from my early 20s, I remember going to an event, seeing a gentleman named Jim Anderson, who a number of you probably know, speak, and I always wanted to speak. And I finally got my shot, man. I got into the multifamily space, met an individual named Dave Lindahl who trained me within the space. And then I had the guts to reach out to him and be like, hey man, I want to speak at some of your events. And he's like, let's do it. And reality is I started to feel, I was so pumped, by the way. That's an actionable that you should take, is that, man, some of the most amazing experiences in my life have simply come from just having the guts to act. Having the guts to take action, having the guts to ask as well. But here's the reality, man. I started to feel invincible. I started to absolutely kill it for Dave. I started to grow my network. I started to grow my business, man. See, I was buying, and still am, but that's when I started buying multifamily properties. So I had over 100 units. I was killing it speaking for Dave, continuing to build a network, continuing to make an impact. But that's all the good stuff. The bad news is that they were struggling to get people to those events. So for nearly 2 months, I would travel away from my family to go speak at one of those events and not make really anything. I mean, 1 week of speaking might result in less than $1,000, which is not worth the time or the effort of leaving my family and speaking at those events. And so I started to feel frustrated. I started to feel this emotion of frustration. So what did I do? Well, man, I thought owning the outcome was to do this. I flew to Boston, sat down in the office, and I demanded that they pay me a base pay of at least $5,000 a week. That was what I demanded. Because, I mean, dude, I am who I am. I was doing what I was doing, and so I demanded what I did. And I was fired via text about a week after. But here's what's crazy, man. Overnight, it felt like my whole world crumbled, man. Speaking is something that I wanted to do for so long, and I'm speaking, cool, but I lost access to the network that I was a part of. I see that network was opening tons of doors for me, having tons of relationships, creating tons of relationships that was helping with the overall bigger picture, which is my business, my investment company. But I lost access to the network. All that hope, all the hard work, I felt like it was gone. It was one of the most embarrassing conversations that I've ever had with Britt, telling her what I had done. But what's crazy is this, man. I thought that they were the bad guys. And nobody could have convinced me otherwise, man. Nobody could have convinced me otherwise. And listen, maybe you're going through a challenge. Maybe you're going through a challenge right now and you think that someone is the bad guy. Shit, some of you may think that I'm the bad guy for whatever reason. Okay, I read comments on social media. Some people think I'm a bad guy. I don't get it, okay? But regardless, and I'm not here to convince you otherwise either, man. But regardless, we have to understand a couple things. See, obviously, something worked out in my favor. Something worked out in my favor because I am here today recording the video and the story, telling you about it. And I've obviously been able to scale in the space because I'll tell you, in that moment of despair, the story that I was telling myself is that it's over. I'll never have an opportunity to speak and tell my story again. My investment company will no longer flourish. So how did I get here, though? What happened from that moment of despair to today? The answer, I'll tell you, is this. The answer will help you understand how to raise more capital. It'll help you build better relationships in whatever it is in your business, in your family, with your friend, whoever it is. It'll also help you gain credibility. But most importantly, man, just gain a confidence that nobody else can take from you. That nobody else can take from you. In reality, that's what owning the outcome is. Owning the outcome is the epitome of being able to have this confidence that nobody can take from you, because you know that you're not the victim of circumstance, you're the creator of circumstance. See what happens? I went on to have an amazing relationship with Dave and that company, worked harder than I had ever worked before. I took ownership of my journey. That's actually when I really started to study mindset, man. Like deeply study mindset. And I grew my portfolio 10x. And this is where some core values of mine were really born, which is positivity, love, service, ownership of the journey. See, what got me kicked out of the network, what got me fired, what caused the result were fears, lack, and resentment. See, I felt despair, man. I felt despair and complete. And just so you know, man, the definition of despair is literally the complete loss or absence of hope. That's the definition of despair, and that is absolutely what I felt in that moment. But here's the issue, man. Wealth doesn't flow to desperation. Never will, never has, never will. So if you think about that, how can you think abundantly when you're feeling scarcity? How can you think abundantly when you're feeling scarcity? That is a critical question to ask yourself, because at points in your life, you're going to feel scarcity. You're going to feel despair, and desperation is a different ballgame. I'll talk about desperation and how that can actually weaponize you. But despair, loss or absence of hope, you're going to feel it eventually. So how do you feel and think abundantly when you're in that situation? Well, these 3 steps I'm about to walk you through today will help you. And they help me, man, take ownership of the outcome that I was looking for. So number 1 step is to feel the emotion, but remain in control. See, feel the emotion, but remain in control. The Buddhists believe that controlling the mind is the path to enlightenment, right? And they define enlightenment as spontaneous and true happiness. But listen, mind control is the opposite of what you might think. It's actually about letting go. Okay, so the Buddhists practice non-attachment, to sit, breathe, listen, allow the thoughts to rise, but then to pass them on. So controlling the mind is actually a matter of surrendering to the mind. It allows you, essentially allow it to function, allow your mind to function as it pleases, and then regulating our reaction to it. So to feel the emotion, but remain in control. So regardless of how triggering the emotion may be, we remain in control. We feel without reacting. That's how you train the mind. It's one of the most powerful things that I've realized with meditation. Is I thought meditation was to sit and feel nothing, think nothing. It's the opposite, man. It's to feel everything. It's to sit and just allow yourself to feel, but remain in control. That's literally how you train the mind. So I decided to feel the emotion, but remain in control. Listen, I put that hate aside. I put that frustration aside. Dave had just had a new baby. And listen, I love Dave, man. I loved Dave, and I knew that. So I put it aside, and I congratulated him on the new baby. And then I apologized on putting them in that situation, because if you think about the perspective, man, they were struggling to get people to their events. They were also having issues on their end. It wasn't just me. They were also having issues on their end, and what they did not want to have was somebody who was just going to be there to complain about it. They needed somebody and wanted somebody who was there to help solve the issue, not just complain about the damn issue. So that's what I did, man. I allowed myself to feel the emotion but remain in control. So I ended up apologizing and reaching out, not because I was looking for anything, by the way. That is what I want you to understand. It's not because I was looking for anything. It's because I wanted to feel abundant. I wanted to feel abundance. So number 1, if you're struggling to feel abundance, if you are living in a state of scarcity, do something that will make you feel abundant. Anytime that I'm feeling scarce about money, as an example, I will go find a way to give, whether that is to give to my church, whether that is to give to someone I know, or sometimes, dude, I'll just pull up to a random 7-Eleven and buy a bunch of people all the shit that they, all those Sev snacks that they just pulled in. Like a couple $100, whatever, but it makes me feel abundant, and that's key. So the second step is I needed to identify the ideal future state. And really, I may have these in reverse, because I really identified the ideal future state probably before I even allowed myself to feel the emotion, but remain in control. Part of identifying the ideal future state is what allowed me to remain in control, because I realized that I couldn't let any distraction mess with that. I couldn't allow any distraction to impact that. What was the ideal future state? Man, I wanted to grow my investment company. I wanted passive income because that provides peace of mind. I wanted to, flourish relationships, not ruin those relationships. See, I had to identify what I really wanted. You know what else I wanted? I wanted to make an impact. And speaking is a skill that I have. It's a skill that I've worked to harness, certainly, but it's a skill that I have. I wanted to utilize that skill, for the betterment of others. I had to identify the ideal future state. And then number 3, I had to make decisions based on that bigger goal instead of my current situation. This is where way too many people get stuck. They will make decisions and take actions based on their current situation, not in the direction of and with the viewpoint of what they are actually wanting, what they are actually pursuing, what they are actually committed to achieving. See, I had to identify what I really wanted, and then I had to put my energy and attention there. I had to quit being so reactionary, I realized that, here's what I realized in this moment too. And by the way, taking ownership of your journey, owning the outcome, you can't do that without some self-reflection, without some self-awareness. And what I had to, what I realized is that I had to quit being so reactionary. I realized that I was very prone to drama. Almost like I searched it out, dude. Around this same time, Britt and I went to an X Games competition. And at that X Games competition, I almost got in a fight with the security guard. Why did I get in a fight with the security guard? Because I was standing somewhere that I wasn't supposed to stand, and they asked me to move. What a dick. Not the security guard, me. That security guard is minimum wage trying to do their job, and I'm being a dick trying to fight him. That's the position that I was. That was the mentality that I had in that moment of my life. See, we have to be able to recognize where the struggle is, recognize what the bigger ideal future state is, and then, make decisions in line with bettering the current situation by making decisions based on a bigger outcome. So, another example of this is on our, I have an education company, the Multifamily Mindset. And there was an issue a little while ago where everyone thought that they were going to lose access to a prized possession that we had, which is our Facebook page. We have an amazing network of people, like literally just the best network on the freaking planet. And it is the private Facebook page is like a really valuable asset for everyone because they're able to build relationships, they're able to get questions answered, they're able to find people to help them with their deals, partnerships, all of those kind of things. It is a very valuable asset, and they thought they were going to lose access. And so that caused desperation. But what was crazy is I wish that I would have had the foresight to just create this anyway. Like, I wish I would have had the foresight to be like, hey man, I'm going to make them feel like they're going to remove their access so that will create the desperation, because I'm going to help you what that desperation caused. These individuals who have been, many of them, really doing not much at all, not making phone calls, not doing any of those things to grow their business. They were just really comfortable. They were comfortable. By the way, I think that is one of the devil's greatest tools is comfort, because it stops you from taking action. It allows you to justify the current situation instead of magnify the future. Right? I just believe it's actually probably one of the biggest addictions that people have is the addiction of comfort. That's where a lot of people were in that state, in that moment. But all of a sudden, something ruffled their feathers, something caused them to feel desperation. And sometimes people will tell you desperation isn't a good thing. Man, I just listened to an Ed Milet podcast, what was so beautiful about desperation, and I could not agree more. Ed talked about how desperation, harnessed in the right direction, can cause you to do amazing things. See, when we're desperate, we don't let anything get in our way. That's what I started to see within my network. These amazing individuals who had been comfortable, many of them, that desperation led to them making phone calls. They're creating groups. They're commenting on posts. They're adding each other on Facebook. They're exchanging information, things that they should have been doing a long time ago. What if that energy was directed to their goals in the first place? What if they were so desperate from the very beginning because they knew what the ideal future state was and they didn't allow any emotion to become a distraction? What if that was the case? What if they were calling about deals, utilizing the group, commenting and engaging, adding each other, feeling urgency from the get? How much farther would they be in their business? Well, that same thing applies to me and this situation back in the day when I got fired from something that I loved dearly and removed from a network myself that I loved dearly. See, what ended up happening is I had to make decisions based on a bigger goal, that ideal future state, if you will, instead of the current situation. I had to understand that it was my job to help the situation, not to complain about it, man. It was my job to do those things. And what's crazy is by taking the steps to literally just feel the emotion but remain in control, it allowed me to build a great relationship with Dave. We went on to do amazing things together and make a big, massive impact in the multifamily space and, man, on each other's lives, you know? And that's powerful. So I'll wrap it up with this. What will set you apart is your ability to do those things. Your ability to be joyful regardless of the situation. Your ability to, sure, feel the emotion, right, but remain in control. So we do this by choosing a better perspective. Choosing to keep a positive perspective, a solution-based perspective, regardless of the circumstance. Once again, sure, feel the emotion, feeling the emotion, but remaining in control by choosing not to always react to the emotion. And if we are going to react to the emotion, well, let's react in a way that will be serving to the greater good, serving to the team instead of detrimental to everyone around you. See, all of that allows us to remain grateful. And when we're grateful, fear, frustration, those things that I was feeling earlier, they're replaced, man, with abundant possibility. When problems arise, which they will, it's a fact. We don't get stuck magnifying those problems. Instead, we magnify our gratitude for our unique ability to solve those sons of bitches. To get those out of the way, man, to become valuable individuals. Once again, happiness, joy, gratitude. That's what sets us apart, man. Both in our ability to experience it and our ability to help others do the exact same thing. Happiness, success, owning the outcome, it's a choice. It's literally a principle to live by. And we get there by working on ourselves. Working on ourselves. That's how we do it. The result, man, success, happiness, confidence that we can do and will do whatever the hell we set our mind out to do. My friend, you are capable, you are worthy, as long as you do the things that I just outlined here, man. And remember that you're in control and that you can own the outcome. Now, you can't control the outcome, but you can certainly own that son of a bitch, man, whatever it is. So I hope you take this, I hope you run with it, and I hope you learn from a failure in my life, and also, not just the failure, but also how I was able to own the outcome. Also, live always with aloha. Peace.